Broadcasting live. It's America's longest running talk show on computers. It's Computer America, bringing you the biggest names in technology with guest interviews, new products, and your emails. Listen live at computeramerica.com on any device around the world. Email the show at live@computeramerica.com or find us on social media. Be sure to check out our website for contests, giveaways, show notes, live video stream, podcasts, and more. You're listening to Computer America.
Hello and welcome. This is the Computer America Show. We are the nation's longest running, nationally syndicated radio talk show on computers and technology. Everyone, hey, welcome into the program. So today on the show, we have computer and technology news, and that is, of course, brought to you by Computer America. We have a full hour with a lot of fun stories, and hey, one of them includes how you too can probably, if you listen to the show, you're probably pretty tech savvy, how you too may be eligible for a free $2.15 from your friends over at Google over the Google Plus lawsuit that was just settled. Hey, everyone, a round of applause for that. There we go. Yeah, $2.15. What are you going to do with it all? So everyone, we have that story. We have more. We have, of course, everything from Disney's new Starcruiser Hotel, which offers the best, well, as they say, the best Star Wars experience, all for the low cost of $5,000. That and just a ton of fun stories, some technical ones, some policy ones. You know, it's a good mix, and I'm really looking forward to today's show. So everyone, welcome into Computer America, computeramerica.com. That's where you'll find everything, including past shows, future shows, podcasts. If you can't catch us live on IRN, then the podcast is the next best place. Simply search Computer America wherever podcasts are heard, and we should pop right up. And also, hey, check out our website. There you'll also find links to social media. Give us a follow, give us a like, and you'll stay up to date with everything that we do, including contests, giveaways, news, and more. Now, with morning announcements done, let's go ahead and get started with computer and technology news. Here we go. Okay, so everyone, hey, how you doing? So I think that for our first story, we have a lot of fun ones, but why don't we start with something fun to begin with? Because, you know, that's we have some kind of depressing ones, but hey, this one's going to be fun. How about Google Plus? You know, we'll start with the a piece of news first. I can't even say it's the biggest news because, again, if you look at the headline here, $2.15. Yeah, $2.15 for a Google Plus privacy violation. Yeah, it's not what you were expecting. In fact, you know, as someone who really keeps up on all this, Google Plus hasn't been on my radar for a number of years. And then even on top of that, I guess the exposure that they had was they were letting anyone who had a Google Plus account see any other Google Plus pictures. You know, it wasn't just friends, family, or anything like that. No, it was... and I believe that's what the case was, but I'm sure that the details are in this article, and this article comes from Ars Technica and Ron Amadia, saying that Google's Facebook competitor and social backbone was effectively dead inside the company around 2014. And those who don't remember, those were some of the biggest telltale signs were that the CEO of the company, CEO of Google, in fact, the guy that was in charge of Google Plus had not even signed into his Google Plus account for like 2 or 3 years before the project was eventually killed off. Google Plus was a walking shell of itself, and we can't say that no one bemoaned its death, but man, it was not a lot of people that were really affected by the closing of this. But there was, of course, the private data of 500,000 accounts that actually wasn't private. And since nobody worked on Google Plus anymore, Google's fix for the bug was to close Google Plus entirely. Then the lawsuits started. There you go. And they said that the Wall Street Journal also reported that Google Plus had exposed the private data of hundreds of thousands of users for years, that Google knew about the problem, and that the company opted not to disclose the data leak for fear of regulatory scrutiny. So, it's one of those situations where social media is meant to be shared. You are supposed to make connections. You are supposed to have friends, family, colleagues, coworkers, and Google Plus tried to do that. They had different circles for different people, and obviously, when this platform's main purpose is for sharing information, sharing photos, sharing location data, sharing everything, it's hard to strike that balance of being open to share, easy to use, intuitive, but also secure. And security kind of took a backseat to kind of functionality in this at this point. And I'm not saying that you can't have one without the other. I'm just saying that Google did that horribly. And so they just decided to wrap the whole thing up. It was a failed test, and so ended Google Plus and YouTube integration. And now, as we said, the lawsuit. So today's class action lawsuit, brought to you by Matt Maddock and Zach Harris versus Google, was filed in October 2018 and blames Google's lax approach to data security for the bugs, and that the complaint added that worse, after discovery of this vulnerability on the Google Plus platform, defendants kept silent for at least 7 months, making a calculated decision not to inform users that their personal data was compromised. And remember, this was actually pre-GDPR and before people really had any kind of codified protections from companies leaking their data. They could report it whenever. In fact, you had situations like Uber, for instance, that actually worked with the hackers and paid them and talked with them secretly for a year. And of course, the hackers, not the most reputable folks out there, they had a year to sit on the data and use it however they pleased, while Uber tried to negotiate the price down. Little things like that really put a sour taste in people's mouths for these companies collecting large amounts of data. Now, I digress. They say that Google Plus profile litigation has sent you $2.15. That is the title of a PayPal notification that people may have seen. Saying that this is your settlement payment as a class member in the Google Plus profile litigation held in the United States District Court for the Northern District of California. The settlement payment has been calculated in accordance to the terms of the settlement agreement, and blah, blah, blah. Essentially, yeah, and I definitely like the Ars byline here, saying that Ars managing editor received this incredible windfall yesterday. Don't spend it all in one place. Yes, $2.15. And that's the part that always kind of ticks people off, is that you are the injured party, but you are the one who only gets $2. Like, that's not even at least with Equifax. At least with Equifax, you were eligible for multiple months and multiple years of identity protection. You did receive some kind of compensation, although actually getting like that $60 wasn't even easy. And that was after it was supposed to be like $100, and they kept knocking it down. Essentially, yeah, you're going to get $2.15 if you can prove that you were, kind of a member of Google Plus. But no one is actually going to, get anything real out of this except for the lawyers who argued this case. Now, the first Google Plus data leak was active from 2015 to 2018 and allowed developers full access to the data from Google Plus People API, even for private profiles. So, yep, even private profiles could be viewed using the API. And the API, don't get me wrong, like there is some kind of verification process to say that, you are an app developer. Good enough. Okay, here's our API. But yeah, it's and don't get me wrong, Twitter and Facebook have both faced similar allegations for their services. So this is not just a one-time thing. It happens to the best of them. Now, and they mentioned that the information that was shared was anything that honestly you shared, and you had to share your name, your birthday, your gender, your email, your relationship status, occupation, list of places you've lived, things like that. People just need to remember that even if social media asks you for those things, you don't have to give it over. If you want to have a social media account, if you want to have a profile on any of these, except for Google Plus, because obviously Google Plus is long buried and dead. But if you want to have a social media account, do some, just anything you wouldn't tell a random stranger out on the street, don't put on your social media profile. You don't have to tell people where you used to work, what high school you went to. You don't have to tell them where you currently are, what bar you checked into. You don't have to tell people anything like this. And if you do, just know that even if you have everything set to private, locked down, completely as you see it safe and secure, just know anyone can see it. At some point, someone that you don't know will see that information. And that's the part that hopefully is a better lesson and more valuable to you than this $2.15 payment that you may get from Google+. Now, with that being said, 2 months later, Google announced a second Google Plus privacy bug that again exposed this People API data, but this time to a whopping 52.5 million users. And that the case was later expanded to cover all these people. And it's not like Google Plus was a highly successful social media company. It was more that they integrated it with Gmail and YouTube, if you recall those dark days. So people who were posting comments on YouTube back in 2018, 2019, people who had a Gmail account in 2018, 2019, they essentially had accounts made for them. But still, you could still kind of monitor or change what information was available to others. Yep, and that everything I just talked about still applicable today. Google Plus may not be, but hey, the lessons about social media: be safe and don't be afraid to lie. Like if they really try to hound you for it, put in a fake address, put in a fake high school, put in fake names or anything like that. I mean, you're not going to get in trouble for lying to social media. And in reality, you are simply making yourself safer. There you go. Now, that was story number one. Story number two. Story number two, let's do a bit of an update. And I think this is worth revisiting. Scarlett Johansson, there you go, the face of Black Widow. This article kind of revisits this whole weird instance where clearly if times were normal in a non-COVID world, Black Widow would have been a real blockbuster. Like, there's only been like 2 Marvel movies that didn't gross like over $700 million. So yeah, this would have been poised to make a lot of money. And there's a number of ways that Disney does that. Some of the examples I've heard is that if you want to show these big films in your theater, and theaters are already not the most profitable business, so they can't exactly go and just give up showing Marvel movies. If you want to show a Marvel movie in your theater, you have to dedicate it to like your 2 biggest screens at least, and it has to have a certain number of showings a day for like 2 months straight. Even if no one is coming to see the movie, Disney mandates that you have to show it to an empty theater, even if you feel that those those theaters would be used for, better purposes. Marvel really does a lot to make sure that their films have every opportunity to make as much money in theaters as possible. Now, because we are in this wacky COVID world, you have situations like this where they have a new, and I don't want to say struggling, because I think it's doing pretty well, considering the entire landscape of streaming services. But yeah, Disney Plus has this new shiny toy called Disney Plus, and they want to really draw people to the service. And to compete with the likes of Paramount, I think it's Paramount, that is putting out, or it might be like Lionsgate. No, is Lionsgate even still a thing? But yeah, it's with Paramount, and they are releasing movies same day as theaters on HBO Max. Stuff like that, they have to be competitive with the market. They, from a purely market share and competitiveness angle, yeah, they're going to try to prop up their other services with the headliners of their movie department. Now, with all that being said, if you don't recall, Scarlett Johansson was one of the first to bring this lawsuit. And by the way, a lot of people filed a lot of lawsuits after the fact. Scarlett Johansson sued Disney for putting her movie on Disney Plus too soon after a theatrical release. And she says, and in fact, it might have been like same day. But still, Scarlett Johansson, when she made the movie, by all accounts, said that in her contract that, hey, this would be in theaters for so long, and you releasing it too soon in people's homes, even though some places still can't even go into theaters because of COVID, Scarlett Johansson is saying that her box office revenue, and of course her tail end and a lot of her money, like the bulk of her money, was actually taken from her because of this release. It really disincentivized people to go to theaters and pay money. Now, and clearly the squabbles between a $100 billion media company and someone who has probably made a lot of money, regardless of how talented of an actress she is and all that good stuff, doesn't really, it's hard to root for either side, because clearly these are two people squabbling over millions of dollars when both of them have millions or billions at their disposal. Now, the aftermath, as the article writes from The Verge, saying that the aftermath was chaotic, but it has more importantly illuminated the myriad ways that streaming has forever changed the way we experience movies and the implications for the creatives and talents who make them. Movie contracts have traditionally been negotiated around box office results, and of course the question is, what about streaming? And by the way, this is a very similar argument that's already been had with, and it's still being had with streaming music. How much should someone get paid for streaming music? Because, you can't say that every time a song is streamed that, that's someone who would have bought the album or bought the record, and, therefore 100 million streams equals 100 million sales, and that's how much the artist is due. No, clearly, streaming is a very non-committal, quick way to look at these things, and yeah, that's something that people will undoubtedly in the future, they'll have to consider when making these contracts. Now, they say about the shift to streaming, things have changed. They say that actors and producers working with a streamer like Netflix are typically paid a set fee. An industry attorney who negotiates contracts for top level told Verge, which is very true. It's like Adam Sandler and his deal with Netflix. Netflix gave Adam Sandler and his they gave Adam Sandler and his little studio $200 million to make 5 movies. That was the signing bonus. They gave Dave Chappelle, $50 million to do 4 stand-up specials. That's how Netflix operates, where clearly they're not selling anything on their platform. They are selling Netflix the service, and everyone just gets paid up front. Disney, on the other hand, they are releasing things in theaters, and there are contracts that need to be negotiated. They say that if they're lucky enough to have significant leverage, they could also potentially secure a bonus premium fee that's a contractual dollar amount paid out over months or quarters. But it's not performance-based like box office bonuses are. Netflix often pays out a pre-negotiated sum in 8 quarterly installments following a title's release. And Apple tends to pay a bit quicker, over 12 months. So these are the streaming services and how these things are done. But because the space is changing so quickly, part of this attorney's role in contract negotiations now is to read the tea leaves and project where the deals are going to go. There you go. Now, the old way of negotiating talent has rapidly changed, and of course, Black Widow, when they first signed the movie back in 2017, it was still based off of these old ways of negotiating, non-streaming deals. Now, with that being said, this is one reason why an industry spokesperson expressed a need for greater transparency by not just Disney, but all streamers about performance data of titles on their platforms. Though, I would definitely disagree with that. How good a movie does, performance-based, I feel like that shouldn't really matter. I get it, stars want their movies that are streamed a lot to pay them a lot of money. Like if it's, if it is the most streamed movie, then hey, you feel like you should be compensated for that because you did something really special. But on the other hand, I feel like if you got the money up front, you paid your bills, everything is good to go. Kind of asking for more on top of that it's greedy. It really is. Now, with that being said, moving down through the article a little bit, they mentioned that if the industry wants to redefine the metrics of success for a movie, it needs to be on the same page on what that definition is. And it seems right now like every studio is playing by a different set of rules and different metrics on what is financially successful and what isn't. And movies are actually very notorious for this, where they will kind of take every little bit of money out of kind of the proceeds, which is why movie stars are kind of well known to ask for a portion of the gross movie sales versus the net movie sales or ticket sales, I should say, because when you ask for the net, which is of course how much the movie made minus anything that was kind of already paid for, including marketing, talent, studio production, all that kind of thing, most movies, and I'm talking like the really successful ones, most movies are on paper losses. And so some, very famous movie stars don't get paid anything depending on the wording of their contract. Whereas the other side, if you ask for 10% of gross sales, then you're due 10% of every, ticket that's sold to see that movie. Now, they mentioned that the article continues saying that now negotiators are not going to operate the same way for every actor. Streaming services are willing to shell out more for talent that they believe is likely to drive subscription to the service, and that in itself presents a huge opportunity for talent willing to join production that may be straight to streaming releases. And they mentioned things like Netflix and Apple TV+. I think Netflix, for all the because they are the most dominant player in the streaming area, a lot of people like to bash on them, but I gotta say, I think Netflix does it right. They don't really release metrics. They'll, sometimes they'll come out and say that this was the best movie we've ever streamed. This production did really well. A lot of people viewed it, so on and so forth. I think that clearly someone somewhere is going to like it and someone somewhere is going to hate it. And to kind of base the success or the failure for a wider audience based on, if people watch it or not, that shouldn't really matter. Like, it's on the platform. You can watch it anytime you want, or you can choose not to watch it anytime you want. To say something was a failure just doesn't make a lot of sense in a streaming world where the cost of investment is literally like 2 hours of people's lives because, hey, they already have the service. So there you go. They say that whether Johansson's lawsuit is settled out of court is less important than what we've learned from Disney's response to it. Streaming services are being intentionally obtuse about how owning every single element of production, including releases, and an insatiable appetite for streaming influence is impacting the entertainment industry. No one's sure what success looks like today, and that's made knowing who's winning and who's losing hard to size up. Short of streamers making the data more transparent and available, the people who make the stuff we watch are walking into negotiations blind, and ultimately that's bad for streaming. What's bad for streaming is bad for viewers. That's a little kind of taking anyone but the streamer side, saying that the streamers are the problem. This antiquated way of making movies is doesn't work in this current model, so therefore the model is bad, not contract negotiations or anything like that. It's I think it's like any other negotiation. Obviously, information is key. Information is super important. What one side is bringing to the table versus the other is going to put you at a disadvantage. But you have to know your own worth. You have to know what you bring to the table, and you got to be willing to kind of fight for that. And if there's any industry that's willing to do that, I believe wholeheartedly that would be the entertainment industry. I hear they are shrewd negotiators. Now, that was story number 2. Story number 3. This one only came out like a couple of hours ago. So everyone out there, this is going to be a sensitive topic, but hey, we're going to do our best to broach this. But this has to do with Apple, and I'm very skeptical that they could do this. Apple is, and by the way, this has been officially announced, so let's see if we do this. Okay. Here we go. Let's actually do this instead of just the rumor. Let's do the official release. This is from 9 to 5 Mac, and this was released at noon, saying that Apple announces new protections for child safety, iMessage features, iCloud photo scanning, and more. So if you are, a user of the iCloud, which is again strictly with Apple products, then your photos are going to be scanned. And honestly, the way that they kind of had wording in some of the rumors that were coming out, I'm surprised that they didn't already do this. And I would be surprised if, it wasn't already in place before this message. But Apple is today announcing a trio of new efforts it's undertaking to bring new protection for children to iPhone, iPad, and Mac, saying that this includes new communication safety features in messages, enhanced detection of child sexual abuse material, or CSAM, and content in iCloud. So CSAM in content in iCloud, and updated knowledge information for Siri and search. One thing Apple is emphasizing is that the new program is ambitious, but that protecting children is an important responsibility, and with that in mind, Apple says its effort will evolve and expand over time. Now, we're going to get into kind of how they do it, and they have a fancy little diagram here, but I guess my initial feeling, I'm always a little wary whenever we talk about stuff like that, because whenever we get into like the emotional side of these things, including, protect our children or, protect our country, it's, for the greater good. The ends justify the means. Whenever we get into conversations like that, sometimes, the end goal, it's hard to argue protecting children from sexual abuse. Like, that's a no-brainer. 10 out of 10 times, everyone's going to be for that. The measures that you take, though, are going to be controversial in some way, because there's obviously, if there was one way to do it, it would have already been done, ages ago. So because there's no perfect solution, you really have to look at efforts that try to prevent this and go, is this going to work? Because, hey, again, if it was going to work, why didn't we do this sooner? And are there going to be any unintended side effects of implementing these things that might actually outweigh the benefits because, hey, it may not even work to begin with. So let's talk about this. They're saying that Messages saying that the first announcement today is a new communication safety feature in Messages app. Apple explains that when a child who is in an iCloud family receives or attempts to send sexually explicit photos, the child will see a warning message, which the warning message you can see right here in the middle, where the photo is blanked out. There's a little exclamation point. It says this photo, this may be sensitive, and you have to essentially click through to see the photo. And of course, there's also the option to block the contact just in case. Now, they say that and if the child taps view photo, they'll see a pop-up message that informs them that the image is considered sensitive. The pop-up explains that if the child decides to view the image, their iCloud family parent will receive a notification to make sure you're okay. The pop-up will also include a quick link to receive additional help. So I'm guessing that would then be the warning that, this photo may be sensitive. It would tell the parent. The parent would then be able to go to the child, say, let me see the photo that may be considered sensitive. And then, of course, the parent and the child would have that conversation, if it happened to be that. Additionally, if a child attempts to send an image that is sexually explicit, they will see a similar warning. Apple says that the child will be warned before the photo is sent and that the parents can receive a message if the child chooses to send it for kids under the age of 13. This has to be one of the most concerning lines that Apple has done, and again, it's for a good purpose. It is to protect kids from this weird world that we have developed that anyone anywhere can send images to anyone with very, very little thought or kind of care. And it's crazy to me that the reaction, the answer to it, is to make some kind of algorithm. And let's see. So, they have a diagram. They have a diagram that shows how it's done. They and this is the part that I'm curious about. Apple undoubtedly gets a lot of reports over explicit images with children because anywhere where there are people, that's where the images will be shared. So obviously people report them, Apple will take them down. If it's in their iCloud, at that point, Apple is responsible for the content of their servers, and they need to make sure that they are not contributing to the spread of child pornography. But this also means that Apple is keeping these images, and they are hashed, as they said. So it's not like Apple has these photos readily available, kind of in a raw format that anyone can kind of open up and see, but they have a repository of censored images that the user photo is, I guess, if they are, part of that child relationship in the Apple iCloud kind of setup, their images that they receive and send are compared to hashed images of, they keep calling it CSAM, but yeah, child pornography. It's compared to one of the two. And it's then, do they match? They have, these safety vouchers, which is, of course, asking the parent to, kind of view these things. And they mentioned that it's uploaded to Apple. If threshold of matches is exceeded, only then can Apple interpret voucher content for CSAM matches, and then it is reviewed by Apple, report sent to NCMEC. There you go. So that's how the whole thing works. There's a repository of listed image hashes, and again, the photo would then be encrypted, and by that, it's the photo that either the child takes or the child receives. That photo is encrypted in the same way that the child pornography is encrypted. The two are compared, and if they are similar enough in certain areas, and as far as like a lot of the approaches that we've heard, this is decently good. we've seen the likes of Facebook where they just have, reports are sent to humans, and humans have to sit there and look at that vulgar crap all day long, and it has led to a lot of PTSD and trauma for these employees. At least in this case, everything is everything is encrypted, everything is censored, and while I fully believe that Apple can uncensor these images, at least it's something. At least it's something. So they say that Apple further explained that messages uses on-device machine learning to analyze image attachments and make the determination if a photo is sexually explicit. iMessage remains end-to-end encrypted, and Apple does not gain access to any of the messages. The feature will also be opt-in. Also good, but as we've seen from opt-in, it starts opt-in, but then it's going to be opt-out, and then it'll be mandatory. And they said that it will be available for iOS 15, iPadOS 15, and macOS Monterey. The feature will be available in the US to start, and yeah, it's, again, here's a diagram. If you're watching the video portion, you can see it all right there. Now, second, and perhaps most notably, Apple is announcing new steps to combat the spread of child sexual abuse material, or CSAM. Apple explains that CSAM refers to content that depicts explicit activities involving a child. This feature, which leaked in part earlier today, will allow Apple to detect known CSAM images when they are stored in iCloud photos. Apple can then report instances to the National Center for Missing and Exploited Children, an entity that acts as a comprehensive reporting agency for CSAM and works closely with law enforcement. Apple repeatedly underscores that its method of detecting is designed with user privacy in mind. In plain English, Apple is essentially analyzing the images on your device to see if there are any matches to a database of known images provided by the National Center for Missing and Exploited Children. All of the matching is done on device, with Apple transforming the data from the National Center for Missing and Exploited Children into an unreadable set of hashes that is securely stored on the user's device. So, again, this could have been a lot worse. At least they are still thinking privacy in mind, but it's still a way to catalog most images on a device. And admittedly, there's a couple of hoops you have to jump through. You have to be part of an iCloud family. You have to be designated kind of the child on the account. And then all of this hashing has to take place and something has to be detected. Not everyone is going to be exposed to these changes, but they are now hard encoded into your phone, and that's the part that should start kind of squinting your eyes at Apple, saying what is the end game there? Because if they feel like this would actually protect people and this would actually protect kids, what's to stop them from doing this on all devices, everywhere, at all times? And then any content that Apple decides is not appropriate, and again, child pornography, never appropriate. Like, that is obviously anyone who is caught distributing, using, so on and so forth, immediately, go 13th century on them. But it does leave that open to every message that you send on a secure channel is then scrutinized. And, lack of privacy is not a good thing. That has never been our understanding here at the show. So, now, Apple repeatedly underscores that, as we mentioned, it's totally secure. Before an image is stored in iCloud Photo, an on-device matching process is performed for that image against the unreadable set of known CSAM hashes. This machine process is powered by cryptographic technology called private set intersection, which determines if there is a match without revealing the result. Private set interaction allows Apple to learn of an image hash that it matches the known CSAM image hashes without learning anything about the image or anything about the image hashes that do not match. PSI also prevents the user from learning whether there was a match. So clearly, if there is an issue and something like that happens, you want law enforcement to take care of it. You don't want them to be like, oh, hey, this image is, detected by Apple. I should, hide this better or things like that. No, you want law enforcement to be able to step in a timely manner. Now, saying that if there is an on-device match, the device then creates a cryptographic safety voucher that encodes the match results. A technology called threshold secret sharing is then employed. This ensures that the content of the safety voucher cannot be interpreted by Apple unless the iCloud Photos account crosses a threshold of known CSAM content. They give an example here saying that if a secret is split into 1,000 shares and the threshold is 10, then the secret can be reconstructed from any 10 of the 1,000 shares. However, if only 9 shares are available, then nothing is revealed about the secret. There you go. That's how Apple promises to handle this. Apple isn't disclosing the specific threshold because obviously, you want to give less information so that you can catch more people, not more information. Once that threshold is reached, Apple will manually review the report to confirm the match, then disable the user's account and send a report to the National Center for Missing and Exploited Children. The threshold technology is important because it means that accounts are not incorrectly flagged. Clearly, if there is an issue, you don't want someone who is completely innocent to have everything about them, reported to the authorities, and then they have to deal with, the FBI and everything on their Apple device is then shared. No, you don't want to deal with that, but at least with this, Apple says, and I really hope that they keep up with the transparent data on these efforts, but they're saying that the system has a low error rate of less than 1 in 1 trillion accounts per year. 1 in 1 trillion. And I guarantee you Apple has maybe 1 billion users altogether. So that's actually very, very low. But that also tells me that the threshold is set super high, because if that threshold was set lower, then there would be a lot more false positives. So there could be people actually slipping through the cracks. Now, even though everything is done on device, Apple only analyzes pictures that are stored on iCloud Photos. Images stored entirely locally are not involved in this process. Apple says that the on-device system is important and more privacy-preserving than cloud-based scanning because it only reports the users who have these images as opposed to scanning everyone's photos constantly on the cloud. This is again a reminder that when the FBI approached Apple and said, hey, we need to get into the devices of these suspected terrorists, Apple let us into these devices. They said, oh, no, we can't do that. We don't have access to to people's phones if it's protected by a PIN. Whereas when they said, we need all the information on the suspected terrorists that they have uploaded to the Apple Cloud or, to the iCloud, Apple said, sure, here you go. Here's all the keys to everything everything we know about them. As soon as it leaves your phone and it goes onto their servers, Apple is responsible for it, and Apple will definitely comply with any court-ordered mission or kind of whatever to hand over that information, which they absolutely should. If they go through the proper channels, get a court order, convince a judge that this is something that's needed, then yes, Apple should definitely comply. But yeah, that's my case, is that Apple, again, I would have been surprised if Apple wasn't already doing this, and they're just now implementing a little bit of new technology to something that they were already doing. Now, Finally, Apple was making upgrades to Syrian search, saying that Apple is also expanding guidance in Syrian search by providing additional resources to help children and parents stay safe online. They can, Syrian search are also being updated to intervene when users perform search queries related to CSAM. These interventions will explain to users that interest in this topic is harmful and problematic and provide resources for partners to get help with this issue. So the updates to Siri and search are coming later this year with iOS 15, iPad 15, watchOS 8, and macOS. It's, and there they even include a number of testimonials, including the CEO of the National Center for Missing and Exploited Children, the CEO of Tom, where's about online privacy and that whole thing. Just, I guess, a bunch of people to kind of come out and say that this is a problem worth tackling, and they feel that Apple's right, because obviously Apple's going to curate messages that they feel are right. It's so hard to come out and say this is a bad idea, because stopping the spread of CSAM, child pornography, whatever, is definitely a laudable goal. That is something that law enforcement and really these companies that have platforms where this stuff is being shared, they should be responsible for their part in stopping it. But this also has the second side where, taking away all privacy is going to limit the safety of everyone who uses these services. Of all the ways that they've done this, and I feel like I've said this before about Apple and Google when they did contact tracing for COVID and the way that they encrypted everything and the way that they were comparing, essentially using the blockchain to, they were using the blockchain, they were using encryption to convince people to, kind of let them contact trace themselves. And I thought that was a really good idea in the way that they did it, but it did have security flaws, kind of out of the gate, and they didn't get it right the first time. This is something that I feel like they have to get right the first time, and it's, it might be worth getting wrong because, you have to try something, but man, it's, it just seems really freaky that they're going to scan every photo. And I know that it's not every photo everywhere, but they're going to scan a lot of photos for this material. And of course, that means that they're going to keep a repository, even of encrypted images. They're going to keep a repository of those images, which in itself is very, doesn't sit well with me. But hey, if they work closely with law enforcement, it's their best chance, I guess. Or at least this is how Apple sees its best chance of stopping this material. I hope that there is a day when we stop the spread of all of that kind of content and, people get the help that they need. But yeah, we're going to have a lot of missteps, and this might be one of those missteps. We just don't know yet. So there you go. Okay, man, we are making great work with today. We are now officially through story number 3. Now we can go ahead and move on to story number 4. And this is another update, this one from Amazon. And if you recall, not too long ago, there was this whole outrage that Amazon, the largest private shipper of goods and products across the world, had these facilities that were crushing, destroying, just throwing away, just to kind of highlight the kind of throwaway culture that we live in. They were throwing away like 1 million units of product every single day or something like that, or every quarter or something like that. And some of those items included things that you would definitely want, like new TVs and new MacBooks. Things that obviously you could definitely, like if you put a little bit of effort into it, you could definitely find a home for these products. Well, this is from Daniel Cooper over at Engadget, and saying that Amazon launches a new resale program following the backlash over stock destruction. And even back when this first came out, even with the amazing amount of numbers that of products that they were destroying, I gotta say that I knew when this happened, the large majority of the products being destroyed were either knockoffs, ripoffs, just cheap, poorly made products, or products with safety concerns built into them. So not everything was, and that's just how the reporting about the story kind of had you think. The reporters wanted you to think that, hey, this is, everything destroyed is a MacBook. Like, it's billions of dollars worth of products destroyed every single day. Not so much the case, but there was stuff that should have been saved. Now, they're saying that after ITV News found that Amazon in the UK was destroying brand new stock rather than reselling it, the company has announced changes in how it deals with returned or unsold products. In a statement, the Amazon says, and I guess the Amazon being Amazon UK, says that it is launching 2 programs for businesses that use the retail giant's infrastructure, saying that these programs, FBA, or Fulfilled by Amazon, grade and resell, as well as FBA liquidations, will enable third-party sellers to list return stock on their product page. And obviously, return stock is going to have, potential hiccups over new in the box, straight from the manufacturer, such as, maybe dirt or missing parts, missing cables, things like that. Is that with the former, when a product is returned to Amazon, the company will evaluate its condition and then relist it as a used product. Amazon added that sellers can set the price based on the grades that Amazon hands out and can control much of the process themselves. FBA liquidations, meanwhile, lets sellers ship returned or overstock product to wholesalers straight from Amazon's logistics depots. They can connect with Amazon's bulk resale partners and try to, in the words of the company's corporate parlance, recover a portion of their inventory cost. So the wholesalers would then get the product that, in this case would be otherwise destroyed. They'll try to sell them for as much as they can, but it's obviously going to be in a much worse condition. Now, the announcement comes shortly after the controversial report from ITV News, which claimed that truckloads of brand new products were marked for destruction. One anonymous tipster told reporters at the time that the process did not spare even premium products like MacBook units, and despite what's going on right now, sealed COVID face masks. And that's one of the bigger egregious issues, was that, hey, people were still looking for protective material, and it was just being destroyed wholesale by Amazon. As The Hill explained, the consequences of that report have raised hackles in the UK, with Labour MPs demanding an explanation for the evidence presented. At the time, Amazon said that no items are sent to landfill, but as a last resort, some are sent to energy recovery. Energy recovery, I'm sure, means they burn the heck out of it, and they're going to burn it as best they can. So I'm sure that a MacBook Pro probably shouldn't be burnt with the whole lithium and, environmental problems, but there you go. Although I hear that some of those incinerators are, powered at like 3,500 degrees or something like that. So I'm sure that very little stuff went into the atmosphere. It was probably just burnt straight into a crisp. So, okay. Yeah, so Libby Johnson McKee, director of Amazon Returns, Re-commerce, and Sustainability, said that new initiatives are one example of how Amazon is trying to ensure that products sold on Amazon go to good use and don't become waste, quote unquote. McKee added that policies will help reduce cost and help companies who use Amazon fulfillment platform to grow their businesses. FBA grade and resale is available right now. And FBA liquidations will meanwhile be available in US and Europe in the coming year. Is it a good solution? Probably the best they had. Should something like this have already been in place before this report? Absolutely. And, hey, that's why journalists are important, to highlight issues that otherwise would go undetected. And it's a shame that Amazon had to wait until they were, it's a shame that Amazon waited until someone shined a spotlight on that. But hey, at least someone did shine that spotlight. So very good on the reporters, and at least Amazon is at least attempting to fix what the problem was. Now, because I mentioned it way at the beginning of the show, and I think we have time maybe just for this one, let's talk about Disney real quick. No more lawsuits. This one is about Star Wars. If you're a fan, well, much like the Disney Princess suite over there, which I think costs like $10,000 a night. Yeah, only a real princess can stay in those things. But yeah, Disney has a lot of fun amenities. There's, of course, the amusement parks. There's the rides. There's the restaurants. And, of course, housing. Well, looks like you may have a chance to stay in one of these. The Galactic Starcruiser Hotel, and it will cost you at least $4,809. That last $9 gives you hand soap in the bathroom. It's great, luxurious. So I'm afraid of playing this this trailer here. We'll include this in the show notes, but yeah, I'm afraid of playing this trailer, otherwise Disney will DMCA the heck out of me. They're saying that Disney's Star Wars Galactic Starcruiser promises fans the most immersive experience ever when it launches in 2022. One that won't be cheap. They're saying that the entertainment giant has revealed the details and prices for the Star Wars adventure, including the fact that it will cost 2 guests in a standard cabin, so not room, but cabin, at least $4,809 for a 2-night voyage. Suites will obviously cost more, though visitors will pay less per person the more people that are in their group. I'm wondering how many people to get it down to $150-$200 a night, that I'm kind of used to. Or if I'm staying at La Quinta, 60, 70, 80. But still, a lot more than that. Disney describes the experience as part live immersive theater, part themed environment, part culinary extravaganza, part real-life role-playing game. And they said that the journey begins when they have a terminal where they will board a launch pad and rendezvous with the Halcyon. Once inside, guests will encounter story moments wherein they'll play a real-life choose-your-own-adventure type game. And I'm sure that means, let's just go ahead and let the article explain it, where they can decide how their story will unfold. They can, for instance, choose to follow the First Order or join the Resistance, choose to join a smuggling ring, or to aid a stowaway. They can interact with familiar characters who will serve as NPCs and take lightsaber lessons to take on foes. Participants can also go on missions if they want to delve deeper into the story. That actually sounds kind of cool. Clearly not $5,000 cool, but yeah, that's certainly different. Participants, they're saying that according to comic book, each trip on the Starcruiser will be one of a kind, so those who can afford more to go on more than once could enjoy unique experience. And they mentioned things like, $6,000 for 3 adults and 1 kid, $4,800 for just 2 adults, things like that. And that actually does sound really nerdy and really cool to me, that they're going to have, obviously, a lot of this is going to be like live theater kind of experiences, but to have different parts of, and I'm sure that all of the amenities are available to everyone. But if you're really into Star Wars and you are clearly going to be paying a premium for this kind of thing, you get to roleplay. You get to be the one with the lightsaber. You get to take on, adversaries, or you get to be the one that betrays everyone and stabs everyone in the back with a lightsaber. And I'm sure that the people who are in the experience, obviously the Disney employees, will follow it to a T. So if you want to be that master of destruction that you always wanted to be, well, I'm sure that the employees will let you do that. It costs a bit, but it's definitely something pretty cool. And obviously, over the years, the experiences and the encounters and the characters will be different every single time, or at least most of the time. So yeah, still way too expensive, but kind of cool. Definitely fun to nerd out about. I'm probably never going to experience something like that, but it's definitely cool. Okay, so there's that one. We don't have time to really do the last story. We have like less than a minute left because the music is going to start now. Let's see. So some of the stories that we didn't do include T-Mobile is going to shut down Sprint's LTE network by June 30th, 2022. And, not to worry, I think that they're just taking over their network. So if you have Sprint's LTE and you want to keep using that service, I'm sure that T-Mobile will just kind of take it over after that point. Sony has reportedly showed off its next-gen PSVR, and there's a fun story about Facebook that we might get to tomorrow, and that has to do with politicians criticizing Facebook for essentially pulling access to their data through the API to a research group from a university that was studying the misuse of data by Facebook. So Facebook was essentially censoring their own critics. We can talk about that story and more. Everyone, thank you for tuning in. Until next time, bye everyone.